So here we are with PPM number 10. I'm back in Portland, and I will be up here for about a week, and then heading over to Chicago, and I'll be meeting up with my colleague Sam Rocha, and we're going to be presenting at the Society, excuse me, for the Philosophical Study of Education at the, I think it's the 111th American Philosophical Association meeting. Okay, so yesterday at the end of meditation, concluded by saying that the tide, the claim of the tide, which was the term that was introduced yesterday, that the tide makes a claim on us, language makes a claim on us, the evocative question makes a claim on us, and it was suggested in the meditation, or it was documented, the ideas were documented, that it claims our judgment, and in doing so it silences the juridical voice. It renders specific that incessant chatter of adjudication and measure. We are silenced by the tidings of the tide, which we have forgotten. And I didn't say anything about our forgetfulness, which is interesting in my commentary, because I was focusing a lot on this silencing. This news silences us, and we find ourselves quiescent, at rest, still, inert, dormant, tranquil, calm, free from anxiety, agitation, or emotion. When we heed the saying of the said nothing, we find ourselves caught and released by the tidings from the tide. Okay, so in the next meditation, I can see already that I'm going to continue with the claim that is being made on us by the tide. Let me just go back to recall that the claim, this is coming from Heidegger, the citation, everything depends on our paying heed to the claim arising out of the thoughtful word. So the claim, just to sort of recontextualize this, is a claim arising out of the thoughtful word. The thoughtful word, then, is any evocative word. Any evocative word that's expressed in a provocative question. And a thoughtful word that is appearing again and again in the meditations is the thoughtful word, nothing. And the thoughtful word in claiming us, this is what I wrote about yesterday, silences a particular voice or a particular tendency or characteristic that we have, and it's, I would argue, a cultural norm, right? Being judgmental, and the juridical voice, right? The one who's making judgment over others. And so this is not to be confused with the judgment of ethics. So the thoughtful word, the claim of the thoughtful word arises out full. The claim is being made by the thoughtful word. Sorry. The claim is being made by the thoughtful word. So it's something to keep in mind. So onward. Here then, a second aspect of the claim we receive from the news of our relationship with the nothing. It catches and releases us. It claims us in a still more direct way. Here the claim is not simply a message, but an assertion that reveals an affirmation of this relationship. Our silence reveals our tacit recognition of this relationship. Tacit, from the Latin tacitus, silent, from tacere, to be silent. The silence says we have recognized the claiming of the claim, and that it has been understood as existing. This silence also signifies that annoyance and irritation have given way to a calm yet steadfast openness. We have become teachable in this openness, and thus the result of the tidings is a tacit turning. The evocative saying of the question in catching our attention has turned us away from what is to what is not yet, the nothing, possibility. We have been drawn into the condition of learning, openness, by the question, and thereby released from judging, which is always a presumptuous modality that prevents our hearing of the other, the question. In judging, we speak with an interrogative voice. We ask not questions as questions, but issue ordinances, decrees, and assertions. We submerge inquiry with judgment, which stands at the conclusion of our interrogation. With judgment, we foreclose dialogic seeking and find ourselves beyond discovery. With learning, by contrast, we have been released from the linear road which leads inevitably to judgment. We have been forced to turn off this well-traveled road and compelled onto paths that take us into the heart of the forest primeval, where we are inundated by possibilities. Learning is a tacit turning of judgment. The saying of the first question with the said nothing releases us to the freedom of discovery. Learning is discovery that comes with the adventure of inquiry, the seeking that is propelled by steadfast openness. This steadfast openness, expressed through the tacit acknowledgement of the relationship with the nothing, which has claimed us, is called Xu in the Taoist tradition. Translated at times as vacuous, it denotes not an emptiness, but a release from obstructions, thus an emptying of distractions. As a comportment or a way of being, Xu describes absolute peacefulness and freedom from worry and selfish desires. We stress here that Xu denotes vacuity and emptiness, unfilled, a void. The tacit turning brought about by the saying of the said nothing is akin to the emptiness of Xu. Evocative speech is a calling, vocare, which enjoins us in emptiness, the condition of learning, where we are addressed in our steadfast openness. I'm going to read that again. Evocative speech is a calling, vocare, which enjoins our emptiness, the condition of learning where we are addressed in our steadfast openness. In heeding the saying of nothing, we are made vacant, vacare. The call, vocare, of the first question enjoins us in Xu, vacare. It claims us in our relationship with the nothing. And that's them. So, starting to build. One of the things that happened when writing this is that, there was this circularity, and at this point it's really, I would say there's some traction, right? There's traction to the writing and to the meditations and to the phenomenology. So things are coming back, so from a phenomenological point of view, I'm sort of perceiving these ideas moving in a circle around, and saying traction, I have to be careful because I don't want it to be perceived that it's like now there's traction, and when you say that, well, someone has traction, it sounds like that the wheels are now gripping the road and they're charging forward. This is a very slow movement, being aware, I imagined that this was a long haul. I understood that I had the opportunity to proceed at a very measured pace. So terms are now building one on the other, and there's a really acute attention to language. So, for example, for me, the sentence that really built somewhere was the play on vocare and vacare, right? So, evocative speech is a calling, vocare, which enjoins us. And what's interesting is there's a typo here. It should have, I should have written which enjoins us in emptiness. I never went back and edited. I would just finish, put the date, print, and then continue the next day. Put it in the binder and continue the next day. So there was a typo, and that's one of the reasons I had trouble reading that. But evocative speech is a calling which enjoins us in emptiness, the condition of learning, where we are dressed in our steadfast openness. So the condition of learning then is emptiness, right? And so when we heed the claim of the thoughtful word, we're drawn into what I'm saying is the condition of learning, right? So learning as a condition that emerges in the relationship with being is emerging in the relationship with emptiness. Now, emptiness then is the existential modality of sort of what I call steadfast openness or radical openness. So at this point, being silenced, right? So the silence of the juridical voice, or the silencing of the juridical voice, is an opening of receptivity, right? The phenomenological attitude is enopened when the juridical voice is silenced, right? So one way of putting it is that the analytical is bracketed and the phenomenological is opened. So this is the condition of learning is fundamentally a phenomenological one, insofar as it is a modality of openness. Now, what I have yet to sort of take up is why it is to say that the thoughtful word enopens us, right? Heidegger says everything depends on our paying heed to the claim arising out of the thoughtful word. And at this point in the writing, I'm trying to meditate on what everything could be. That is to say, if everything depends on our paying heed, then what does it mean to pay heed? It's a better way of putting it. So what the meditations are taking up is this paying heed. Because if everything depends on our paying heed to the claim arising out of the thoughtful word, then it's the paying heed that I'm focusing on. Without directly taking it up insofar as naming it, listening, or this and that. Heeding the claim of the thoughtful world is to be emptied. This is what I'm suggesting at this point. It's to be made vacare. In heeding the saying of nothing, we are made vacant. Vocare. The call vocare of the first question, how is it with the nothing, enjoins us in vacare. And so then I introduce this Taoist term, which is HSU, and I was attempting to pronounce it as Xiu, sort of having a sort of soft H sound and then Su. I'm not entirely clear if that's how you pronounce it. So, but right. So Xiu denotes vacuity and emptiness and unfilled void. Right. And I was just now thinking that this, in paying heed of the saying nothing, we are made vacant. And there's this question that's arising for me at this moment, and it may be a question that if anyone's watching this video, may be wondering, well, why? Why is it that when we heed the saying of the nothing, we are made vacant? I could tell you at this point that the phenomenological response, and the one that I was taking in writing this, is to say, because we are. if we're being claimed by the thoughtful word and heeding that claim, we're made vacant, right? So it's a very, it has to be an unanalytic response. As unanalytic as if I go out at midday on a hot sunny day and I lay out in the sun, I will be made even hotter. And depending on my pigmentation, I may get burned. I will certainly get, in my case, browner. That's it though, right? If I'm hungry, I will eat something and I will feel not hungry. I will be on the way to being full. If I'm tired and I lie down, I will sleep, and when I sleep, I will wake up and I will have gotten rest. The questions as to why that's rest, what is it about the body that feels rested, what are the biochemicals, what's going on in the stomach, all those are a sort of second order analytical sort of questions that aren't part of the phenomenological description. That's not to say that the description won't build more and more in terms of making an account of all of what's happening in terms of this thoughtful word, heeding of the thoughtful word, emptiness, silence. The lexicon will grow, and the denotations and the connotations of the terms of the lexicon will continue to grow and grow and grow. And that's what this work is about. It's a work that's engaging with language. That's the poetic side of it. It's not analytic, phenomenological meditations, if there were such a thing. I suppose that perhaps the Cartesian meditations are that sort, but these are not Cartesian meditations. These are poetic phenomenological meditations. And in being that, the unfolding of the truth of what's being said is unfolding through a kind of poetic, lexicographical work in writing. Okay, and that's it for PPM number 10, 4701.22.02, originally read on February the 22nd, written on February the 22nd, 2004.